We might still have a few more people joining us, but we'll go ahead and kick this off. Thank you for joining us today. A couple things first, we will be recording the presentation today and we'll make sure that we get you a link to that recording as a follow-up. Also, if you do have questions throughout the presentation today, please use the Q&A box. It's usually at the bottom of the Zoom window, but that way you can type your question in there anytime throughout the presentation. We'll save some time at the end to go through those questions. We might answer some on the Zoom interface, but if we run out of time, that way we can definitely follow up with you too. So I want to welcome everybody and our guest speaker today, John DeLeo. He's going to take us through some of the Business Central interface. On that note, John, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jen. Good afternoon. So we're here and we're going to talk first about GP's end of life. I want to make sure everybody's clear on what's going on with GP and what's not going on with GP and what that means to you. Obviously, we've all been using GP for a long time. It's a solid platform. So a lot of people love GP, thousands, tens of thousands, 20,000 plus. I still hear companies that are still running GP today. So it's not as though while Microsoft has announced their end of life, it's not something that is going away anytime soon. There's lots of people still running, a lot of companies, some really large companies that are still running GP, right? So it's really a matter of understanding where you are today, what makes sense for you, and when is the right time to transition to Business Central in the cloud versus on-premise. And so we're going to jump into a PowerPoint presentation just to kind of cover some of those things and what GP going on with GP, what's going on with BC, and what it includes. And then we'll jump into some BC functionality, kind of see and get some look and feel of what it's like. This first slide here is just kind of an overview of Business Central, where you can see it's a browser-based application. It's got mobile platforms, a small platform, a phone or a tablet, and those apps are going to scale appropriately. So GP, what's going on? Microsoft, one slide deck. Thank you. All right, so Microsoft announced back in October, official end of life for GP, EOL, right? Everybody loves an acronym. So what that means is for everybody that's running GP today, you can continue to run GP. It's not going away. For clients that are in a payroll, or if you're running GP 1099s or fixed assets, those are things that certainly have regular updates, especially payroll. So if you're running payroll, you still need to have those year-end updates to make sure that your taxes are up to date and everything is up to date. Certainly 1099s, if anything changes, if you're on one of the latest versions, then it's really not going to affect you today, but maybe next year it might. Or if you're still running GP, you'd have to get that year-end update applied to your GP instance. But all that's going to continue through September 30th, 2021. So what does that mean? Still going to have regular updates. We're still going to have some features, not many, being added to GP, but it's still going to be fully functional. For most of our clients, they are perpetual, which means they purchase their license and they're paying Microsoft an enhancement, and that enhancement entitles you to all of those updates that come out. Now, because they picked September 30th of 2029, that's important for anybody that is on payroll with GP, because that means you don't get a year-end update for 2029. So you really need to be planning to be off of GP. I would, if you want to finish the full year, that means 2028, end of 2028, and you would start 2029 on a new payroll system. So keep that in mind. For anyone else, right, it's through 2031. We're looking at continuing to get security patches, but not any regulatory updates. So no changes on taxes, or if they were to change 1099s, now that doesn't mean that Green Shades or somebody like that isn't still going to be able to take care of those 1099s for you. We've had clients that have had that issue in the past where they were on an old version of GP. They still put their 1099s into green shades, uploaded them, and it was not an issue. So again, keep that in mind. But right now we're looking at here, we are in 2024, almost into 2025. So we've got some time to really plan out, don't want a knee-jerk reaction. What makes sense? When is it the right time to move? Obviously, moving to the cloud means a lot of things to a lot of people. Some it's a perfect solution. Others might have a more complex environment where you really need to figure out everything that you have in GP, right? What's mission critical to my business, and how would that translate to Business Central, right? Lots of features and functionality in Business Central that GP does or does not have in some cases. And then there's a whole new ecosystem of ISVs out there to add functionality to Business Central, just like we have with GP with ISVs to enhance GP. Now, keep in mind, Cal and many of the predominant GP ISVs that are out there are saying they're committed to beyond even 2031 to continue to support GP and our GP clients as they see fit. So keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about moving to the cloud, many people think of Business Central, and GP is not one of those solutions. Well, GP, while it can't be a true cloud solution like Business Central is, where I can just open it and run it in any browser, you could still be hosted on either a private cloud or another, and where you're running terminal servers. And many of our clients do that today, right? They don't have their servers in-house. They're not maintaining their servers any longer. So that could buy you time as well while you're planning your move. Again, you have to know what is important to your business and really evaluate what are all the things that I can't do without to run my business before you make a switch to any ERP system. No matter what it is, you have to know what those important things are for you, right? And then in this slide at the bottom, there is what you need to know link here for end of life for GP. So if you have any further questions, you can certainly refer to that on our website. All right, so Business Central, what is it? First off, it came out in 2018 with Microsoft, and it was built on the Navision platform. So anybody that's been around Microsoft for a long time knows that Microsoft bought Great Plains and renamed it to Dynamics GP. They bought Navision and renamed it to NAV. So you had Dynamics NAV. And there are still people that are out there running Nav on premise, just like you run GP, but they took the back end side of Navision, right, the SQL Server based solution, and they then put a browser front end on it. And so they've been their target is small to medium sized businesses, right, which is the same target market that GP was. Nav and GP were competitors at one time back in the day, but it is a true cloud solution. So what that means is you can access it from anywhere as long as you have internet connection. So browser based, almost any browser will work. They do have recommended browsers, but certainly most browsers will work. I usually use Chrome or Edge. And then of course they have the mobile application, which also has many of the features, and that's included in that solution. So it's not a separate mobile app that you need to add or purchase or add on to it's part of the core application. You just download it onto an iOS or Android device and you log in using your Microsoft credentials, and you're in to that application just like you would be as if you were logging into a browser. So again, Business Central released in 2018. So in 2018, Cal looked at Business Central and said, okay, there's a lot of feature functionality. They just had done financials at that point. It was still in its infancy, right? They were really building it out. But since then, it's been 6 years now that they've really been enhancing and adding feature functionality to Business Central. And so the main gist at first was, okay, let's get that Navision functionality for the modules back into Business Central, right? So we have screens for everything that we could do. And then they started in more recent years now building enhancements to Business Central to really make it part of that Dynamics 365 ecosystem. So what that means is it's built to be run in the cloud, Microsoft's cloud, and be tightly integrated to all of Microsoft's other solutions. And we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. So again, there's 3 different licenses. So like GP, we had when Microsoft transitioned from module-based licensing, they went to 2 different SKUs basically, and they separated manufacturing and some other things with GP to that was your advanced license, and then you had your standard license, which included all the rest of the modules that GP had, right? So Business Central is similar to that. We've got the Essentials license, which really only does not include manufacturing and their service order or field service solution. So it includes everything else, just like GP did, but it does have some other modules. And then there's one other option, which is a kind of like similar to what GP had with its limited user licensing, which is a Teams user. So that Teams user has limited capabilities within Business Central, so they can look up data, they can run reports, they can see information, but they can't do a lot of create new transactions. They might be an approver or be able to review something, but they can't actually create certain types of transactions. There's a long list, right? They can create a sales quote, because that might be a Teams user, but it's really the Teams user is not really in Microsoft Teams, it's in Business Central, doing Business Central functionality, but in a limited capacity, right? So but the two core Essentials and Premium. So if you need manufacturing, you're sitting in Premium, otherwise you would be looking at Essentials. So it is hosted in Microsoft Cloud. There really is no other options if you want all the functionality that Business Central offers. So you really want to make sure that if you're thinking Business Central, then you know most of these companies are leveraging all of Microsoft's solutions, right? So you're an Office 365 user. Again, for companies that are Google shops, you know, you got to really decide, okay, what makes sense, because you're going to lose a lot of the functionality that really Microsoft is building into Business Central if you're not part of that Microsoft ecosystem. But it really does make it so it's really seamless in the ecosystem to be able to just move your way through and not have difficulties connecting Business Central to some of the other products. So keep in mind, GP, obviously, you have to either do your own upgrades or you're coming to Cal and we're helping you do those upgrades, right? With Business Central, that's all included. So not only are you paying for that user, that the user-based pricing that you saw earlier covers your user, it covers your hardware, it covers all of that, all tied to it. So you're not having to have anything, you're not buying hardware anymore, other than something that runs the browser, right? But you don't have servers anymore, and you don't have to do all of that. And then in addition, you're not responsible for the upgrade. So they have 2 major releases per year. They call them waves. The reason it's waves is because, when that wave starts, you can get caught up somewhere in that wave release, meaning that, not everybody across the world is going to be upgraded to wave 1 on that date when it's released. So they're going to update you and say, okay, it's now available, and you can plan your upgrade. So you have a certain time frame that you're allowed to basically say, okay, I don't want to take this immediately. I want to basically have a sandbox. Maybe I want to test it out first. So you can just go ahead and into BC, you create yourself a sandbox. There is an option for a free preview, which is not your data, but again, you have visibility to look at the new feature functionality. It's a long list that they come out with every time when they're doing these updates. I mean, so they're really putting a lot of emphasis on adding more usability to the platform. That's really what they're trying to add, is to make it as user-friendly as possible. So keep in mind, again, those upgrades twice a year. There are minor updates that happen. If there was some security patch, those will just be automatic. They'll just roll those in. Again, you're not responsible for that. So again, Microsoft continues to build out Business Central to really work with that 365 ecosystem. So it does include modules that exceeds what GP-enabled modules have. So there is a light CRM functionality. There's definitely some functionality that exists in BC that does not exist in GP, right? You don't have that today. So just again, keep that in mind. If you're certain things that you're looking for, it might be in the native BC solution that you didn't have in GP today. And so other things to keep in mind, right, when you're talking about cloud is storage space, right? Now you're basically running your ERP in the cloud, and you need to be able to make sure that you have enough storage space. So that storage space, there's a certain amount of storage space that's included with each user. So you start with 80 gigabytes, and then if you're an Essentials user, you get 2 more gigabytes per user. So if you have 10 more users, you're basically at 100 gigabytes of space. And if you're the premium users, then you get 3 gigabytes per user. So again, If you need more space, then you can always buy more space. But outside of that, that's really the only buying licenses and buying more space if needed are really your two main additional cost factors to run Business Central in Microsoft's cloud. Microsoft is currently today really saying that, when I was at Summit, they were talking about how, that yes, they will scale your environment to make sure that it supports your users' needs. Right. So if you need more horsepower because your users are really doing a lot of activity, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to increase that Azure environment to make sure you have more resources available to your users so they have an optimal experience. It is tightly integrated to Excel. They're really trying to leverage the power of Excel to make a lot of things that you might have had to do in other ways. You can just use Excel to do. So really super powerful. You'll see that in a little bit. Outlook, again, it has an integration. You basically plug that into Outlook. Again, Microsoft. So like Outlook, you get the Business Central plugin, and you're able to do functionality through Outlook to push things into BC. Right? You can do some functionality there. The latest thing that they've really been focusing, I'm sure everybody's probably heard of Microsoft and Copilot and AI. AI is everywhere. So Copilot is Microsoft's AI solution, and they've really been pushing that. They've embedded it into Business Central, so you can actually use it without having to buy a Copilot license because it's embedded in Business Central. So when you're using it and you're using it in Business Central, you're not having to buy a Copilot license. It's actually part of the platform. Now that's still evolving as far as the Copilot interface, but it's something that Microsoft's heavily focused on, trying to make the Copilot, the AI, to be able to give you information back out of BC without you having to go and navigate and search or build your own reports, do anything like that. You basically ask Copilot, hey, give me my top 10 customers last year, and it's going to go and pull that information out of the system and give you that back. So again, Copilot is really where they're trying to make that ease of use for the users, give you that inside the solution. It easily integrates with Microsoft's Power Platform. So if you need some advanced functionality or you want to leverage automations, advanced workflows and approvals, you can leverage it through Power Platform and Power Automate. So again, because it's all part of the same Microsoft ecosystem, you're literally in your licensing just saying, yep, I want to license that. And now I got a Power Platform user, and now, okay, it's going to go out there, it's going to Power Platform, Power Automate, and maybe it's going to send emails or it's going to send off a notification to somebody for approval. But again, it's easy to connect all these dots now because they've really tried to make it so that way there's not a heavy lift to like integrate these two solutions together. And if I want to use Power Automate with GP, and some people did do that, again, it was a lot bigger effort than it is now with what Microsoft's doing with Business Central. And it does integrate tightly with Power BI as well. So again, if you want to create, if you're using Power BI today, or you want to create all these beautiful graphs and charts, you can basically take that, you can embed them back into Business Central and have all that information exposed in Business Central. Here's just a kind of a quick glimpse of what's included with the modules. Again, so some of the things you said you have is, they call it CRM, but again, you've got campaigns, you've got pricing, you've got some of the things that, again, otherwise you would not have in GP, right? So you definitely have some things in here. Now GP had project accounting. Business Central's project solution is a much more robust solution than what project accounting was on GP. So a lot of our clients had to go and get an external project solution for GP from an ISV. In this case, it's a much better solution inside of Business Central. Supply chain, again, a lot of feature functionality there. There is some light WMS functionality. I would say it's going to get better over time, and that's part of the thing. Microsoft is really making it where all of these things are getting better. The roadmap that's out there is just continuing to grow for what they're enhancing in Business Central to really make it a complete solution. And then we talk about ISVs. So ISVs, independent software vendors, right? A lot of our clients have them. A lot of them have E1 Smart List Builder or some tool like that, right? So Microsoft has their app source out there and in the marketplace. If you search specifically for their product, Dynamics 365 Business Central, you will see all the apps that are out there for Business Central. Again, these are considered apps because you'd be in Business Central in the cloud, and you basically could go up to the app source and you could click on there. And as long as you're allowed to actually get an application from Business Central based on your security, then you could actually download that up. Obviously, you'd want to do it into a sandbox, and then you'd be able to try it out if it's a free to try. But as of a little while ago, it was currently showing 6,308 apps out there for Business Central. It's growing every day. Now, again, I wouldn't say that all these are trusted ISVs, but there are a lot of trusted ISVs. Again, this is covering the world. So I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you wouldn't apply depending on your business and where you're located. And again, it's a very big ecosystem that you're now becoming part of if you go to Business Central. So you can add needed functionality that may not exist in Business Central, just as we used to do in GP. But there's a lot bigger ISV presence for Business Central. So many of the GP ISVs are now also supporting Business Central. If you go to their website, you probably see that there, where they're now supporting Business Central, and they have some similar product for PC. And then again, you combine that with all the Navision ISVs that were out there that have also come over to Business Central. So really, that's where you get this huge ecosystem. So if you're looking for certain functionality, then that's where we go. We go to the marketplace. Obviously, we want to make sure we get a trusted ISV that we know is going to be a solid partner that we're going to work with, because that part is still like upgrades, right? They're supposed to upgrade their product so that when those automatic updates come up, your ISV solution also has to get upgraded, right? To continue to work Business Central. So in those scenarios, again, you're going to be in that part where you need to manage that upgrade process, test those ISV solutions in a sandbox environment, making sure that you're now good. And then you can schedule your live upgrade, give Microsoft a window, and then they'll be able to do that upgrade for you. And you manage that all through your admin console. All right, so Business Central versus GP. Here's GP in the past, and this is BC in the future. So this is where we're talking about. With that, I'm going to jump into Business Central and start showing you a little bit of the application itself. Again, I'm in Chrome browser here. This is my Business Central environment. It's a demo environment, so it's basically this mod administrator account. And so what we need to know when we first log into Business Central, it is going to be using your Windows authentication to log you into the application, and that will be tied to the security as well. So it's going to limit your access based on whether you're a Teams user or whether you're not an Essentials user, as to what you can see and do within the application. Again, so that's all tied to those licensing and tied to the security. When I first log in, I'm going to show you the company. Here's where I can switch my companies again. So when GP, you can have, well, I don't know that anyone ever said there was a limit to the number of companies you could have in GP. Many of our clients have more than one company. Business Central, same way. They say 300 is the limit of number of companies you can have within Business Central. I think, I think that would accommodate most, right? So, and then basically you can just click on this and switch to that company, and then it's going to log me into the company. And again, it's going to validate my security and show me, reload that based on what information I have loaded up in that company. The other little cute feature that I like in Business Central is something you couldn't do in GP is if I go and I click this little down arrow here, I can open a new tab. So now I've got two different companies open. So I've got my Kronos 2 over here, and I've got my Kronos company here, right? So I can have multiple tabs of the same screens open. I can do things like that again, which again, GP, because it was not browser based, you couldn't do those things. So again, different companies, basically you can have as many as you want. Over here, this is the Copilot embedded. This is a typical search that's been in BC for a long time to tell me what to do screen. Right, and now I get over here. This is where I need to set my settings, my role. So as a user, right, I have to pick a role that represents what I do, and that really is going to change what this homepage looks like and what gets presented here to you. So, right, if I'm going to keep with the business manager, but if I was the accounts receivable manager and I click OK, you're going to see it's going to load an entire different focused role solution. Right, so that way I have so I have customers, sales orders, sales invoice, sales returns. It's really focused just for what I might do. You've got some actions here, quick actions. Again, they're going to load up these different metrics that are based on my role, right? So you can switch roles as needed. Again, security is still going to control whether or not you can see that information, but you're going to have these different roles. I'm going to switch back to business manager, just so that way I can have the majority of the access that I want. So across the top here again, that's kind of determining. So these are kind of like GP's drop-down menus in some cases, right? You're able to access these things quickly from there. As I'm looking across the screen again, you did see if I wanted to, let's say I was really focused, I could pin that. So now it's pinned there that way. So you do have some functionality there. I go back to my home page by clicking on this. I don't want any Kronos 2. Let me jump back over to Kronos. So when we're in here, you'll have this big show demo tours. You can turn that off if you don't want it, right? So across here, these are all actionable, right? So sales this month, I'm going to see a list, right? It's going to jump me into a list, back arrow back to where I was. As I'm going down these tiles here, again, you can show or hide which tiles you want to see. If there's available tiles that you're not seeing, you can actually personalize the solution and show those. So, and again, these are actionable, so I can click it and it's going to show me the associated list. And you're going to get these helps pop-ups when you first, until you decide to turn them off based on your user. You can decide to turn those off, but again, it really is helpful for somebody that's new to the system to be able to use that. When I'm in one of these lists like this is a standard list, right? So we're going across here. So it kind of looks and works kind of like GP's smart list. And then as you're clicking, you can see we have this information tab across the left here, which are really important metrics, right? So we've got a customer number, they had a balance, outstanding orders. Again, and the way it works is if you click on one of those numbers, it's going to take you and show you that additional information so you can get to that quickly. As I'm going down here, again, you have all this additional information about, so that's little information pane. So for a lot of people, want attachments. So in this case, again, we can do attachments in here. So instead of clicking on the word documents, click on that number sign, and now I can attach files. So I can either click up here or click there. Either way, it's a drag and drop. So just drag a file over. It's uploading it. It's not part of the application. Again, if somebody else comes back in here, and again, you can have as many file attachments as you want here. I'm going to open that, and it's basically opening back on my local environment. So a lot of file attachment capabilities within the application throughout. And again, you can see as I'm scrolling down, you see all these different, they do have an integrated Shopify solution for somebody who's an e-commerce platform. Again, the base level Shopify integration works for a lot of sellers. So again, you have a lot of functionality here. There is a subscription and recurring billing piece, which is newer. And so again, that was something that we didn't have in GP. So, and then you get down into your insights where you're going to get some business metrics. Again, have the ability to click, and it's going to take you to that additional information. And then over here, we have our Power BI. So again, if you have Power BI, you can basically embed those charts and graphs into BC and be able to see that information in here. So basically, the home page is trying to present you with everything that you need to be able to do your job quickly. If there's something that I need to do that's not in that list, right, I can go to the tell me what to do list, right? And so maybe I'm looking for vendor, anything that contains the word vendor. If I start typing it, and I start typing template, you see it's filtering. As I get to that third letter, it's filtering the list. So you can see I've got vendor templates as a page or a list, and then I've got reports as well, and it's showing you all those. Again, it shows me three by default. Open that up, expand it. So you definitely have, again, this is telling me what to do. So for a lot of people before Copilot, this is how they really navigated Business Central, to be able to go and find what they're looking for in an easy fashion. So again, instead of going through the menu trees, a lot of times you might just go in here. And so if I want to do a purchase journal is kind of like our GP payables. And as I'm quoting, you see it's filtering that. Click on it, it's going to take you to it. There's also that bookmark, so that way if I bookmark it, over here, then it's going to add it as a bookmark here for me. So now I have that. So again, you can make it shortcuts, give you ease of use again. So we get it. So we got our tell me what to do, our companies, and then we got our Copilot. So Copilot opens up over here, and it's still in preview mode in this case for my demo environment, but maybe I want to see top 10 items. Plug in over here is literally reading the data inside of PC. Again, if I told the top 10 items in 2024, then it's going to use that, interpret that, and it's actually going to use that to return the data. So again, this is where the power of Copilot comes in to really be able to make these what if scenarios, be able to come up with that information that otherwise you might have to go and so here it is, right? So my top 10 items. So you really can, like I said, use Copilot throughout the application to pull information that otherwise you might not be able to get to. So in addition to your companies here, if you created a sandbox company, it would be down here. And that's where you just go into your companies. You can go and create a sandbox. You can copy one of your existing companies to that sandbox company, basically as the basis of the creating a sandbox. And that's where you can download those apps, try it out. Again, all these companies and your sandboxes count against that overall storage. So you want to make sure that you're aware of your storage requirements, because if you try and create a sandbox or you have lots of these companies and you're not getting rid of them, then they're going to consume your disk space that you have available in the cloud. So another function recently added. So if I go into, let's say, vendors, here's a vendor list. So personalized. So this gives you the ability to take columns away, move them around, again, kind of like smart lists, right? So I'm changing these for me. So these are personalizations. Again, I'm just moving things around the way I want. In addition to, if there were fields that I wanted to add to this list, right, I can add those fields on here. So maybe a multi-currency and I want to see the currency code, location code, again, dragging those on. So I've personalized it now for my users as long as I have access to do that. So in addition, you see we have Copilot in here as well. So you can this is basically analyzing the list. But then we also have this pivot option now. So basically it's putting it in pivot mode. Right, so you can see here, and maybe on a group. So I drag my drag down here. Now I've got a grouping, and so you're able to do pivots within the data throughout any of these lists to be able to make it easier. And you see it's summing the numbers here, so that way you can do that. You can actually save these. So if you wanted to have them reusable all the time and be available, so case in point, I might see different vendors by different classes, and I want to be able to see that and see what my total spend is that I owe on each of the vendor classes. Then again, this would be an easy way to do that. Turn that off. Back in my regular list view. So when we're in these lists, again, you see I personalize it, so these columns are now here. This is where you really, so you can also make filters. So again, some similarities to smart list favorites would be your filters, where you can basically construct a whole slew of filters here that and save that as a save filter, so that way you could reference it. And then we have over here toggling the different views. So I prefer the list view, but certainly if I were on the item cards, I might want a tile view where I could basically see the images of the products, right? So definitely have your different views that you can use. and it's just gonna remember which one you chose last. This is gonna toggle off my information pane, so now I've got more real estate. So again, do you want the information pane or don't you? Again, I think it's really beneficial to be able to go here and be able to see those open items, that this is the invoice that's due, and it's showing here in red because it's past due. So again, really helpful. Back arrow, and now we get into Excel. So we've got open in Excel, which is just basically just send it to Excel and open, right? There's no additional functionality, and that is available for every grid. Edit in Excel is available in many of the grids, and that really is what it means. So now I'm actually exporting it out to Excel. I'll go, because I'm in my test environment, I will go ahead and upload that here. Again, I would not be able to upload this or open this and make the connection unless I, as a user, have the rights to do so. So if I were to send this spreadsheet to somebody else and they're not set up as a user or don't have authority for this data, they're not going to be able to open it. Because it will authenticate it. So and it does leverage OneDrive quite a bit here to do that. So it's now loading the data, it's making the connection to Business Central, validating my user. Again, it's all tied to everything is tied to Microsoft and the intro and the user IDs. Yeah, there we go, it loaded up. So again, this is a demo environment, so it's not the speediest environments, but anyways. Point being is here, I can change this information. Not all the information can be changed. Obviously, I can't go and change the balance due and expect that it's going to actually do something, right? But if I'm going to fix the name or change the class or do something like that, certainly I can do that in here. I could also go ahead and create a new vendor. So if I've got a whole list of new vendors I need to add, or again, customers or whatever the case might be. Again, it is going to validate the data based on what I say is required. So I've just typed that in there, I hit publish. It's actually writing back to Business Central. It gave me a vendor ID. Jump back into Business Central. Refresh my list. And here's my new vendor. So it automatically, because I didn't give it a vendor ID, it assigned one based on the logic that's set up behind the scenes. So again, you can do this, master records throughout the system. Again, you have the ability to do that. So really powerful edit in Excel to be able to really do mass edits, mass uploads of information all through Excel. Additionally, again, the way this is working, you've got a design number in here so you can get more creative on being able to pull their tables. Obviously, you can build charts in here and such. So really, again, trying to use the power of Excel to do a lot of what you want to do. You could even delete that, maybe it was incorrectly done, publish it, and it is going to warn me, right? Do you really want to delete one of these now? Yes. If I say yes, and delete that vendor. So again, it's a really powerful tool. It will validate, so it's not going to let you, I can't delete a vendor that has a balance and so forth. But again, it's a pretty powerful tool. So in addition to things that you can do there, so here's the ID, right? Let's say they change the name, or I want to just try and change that. Okay, it's got to go and update the related records. You really want to do this? Yes. So let's say a vendor got acquired or a customer changed the name and you want to use the IDs, right? It's that simple to be able to change those IDs as well. So again, it's pretty flexible in that regard. So let's take a look at copy and paste. So I'm going to go back to my home page. So again, they're really leveraging the power of Excel. So when we're talking about that, we're really talking about, what can I do or not do? And so if I go into my general journals here, see here, I've got I do a Control C on that row that's queued up in this batch. I'm gonna go out to Excel. paste. Right, so now I've got that record done. All right, so maybe thank you. All right, so I can copy this, or I can actually do the same thing inside of Business Central. So if I again Control C, which you can't see, but then I go on the next row, Control V. Right, so if I were to select more, Control C. There it goes. So it pasted both rows. So again, you have a lot of flexibility to be able to do copy and paste within Excel through Excel. So you have an Excel file here. I want to change the accounts or change the amounts. Again, all that's doable. In addition to, again, you still have, we go over here, again, you see edit in Excel. Other options you see in here, share to Teams. So this is actually if you're using Microsoft Teams and you want to share that, you could basically take this and say, hey, send it off to someone that's in our organization. So in this case, this is my general Contoso. Right, if I had a whole slew of people in my organization, I would see them. I could send it along with, in this case, says everyone check this out, but maybe please review and approve. Share. It's going to go to the Teams channel. And you're actually going to see that now. So again, ability to communicate from Business Central to Teams, somebody will be able to then click on that link and open it up inside of Business Central. Again, they're trying to build out so that way the interconnectivity between the ERP and all these other business applications is becoming somewhat seamless. So we're talking about those integrations. And another thing you might have noticed, there was no save button. So as you tab off of changes in Business Central, it is immediately saving those changes. So it's not, you don't need to hit the save button. It literally is saving as you go. Again, because it was built on Business Central, built on the vision, it's not as though it was a brand new ERP. It really was an existing ERP, and then they just are now making a cloud-based solution. So that means that many of these reports and functionality within the solution has been around for years. So it's not as though you're on a new ERP that just got started and you're worried about, hey, did they know what they're doing? Is it really going to be? No, it's a solid platform. Again, it's been around for a long time. They're just basically putting a browser and giving you now all this additional functionality around it. You can see as you start going into the different reports in here, lots of things that you can see, ability to do lots of things. Again, it's just not as though you're starting with a core package that you need to really try to work with. So now some concepts that Business Central is more common with is it uses journals. So purchase journals, sales journals, cash receipts journals. Again, all these different journals are basically ways that you can do things without having to necessarily go and, let's say, go to a vendor to do purchasing invoice, right? That's one way to put it. It is a traditional way is to create a new invoice, right? You can copy and paste throughout the application as well. So this would be a traditional way of entering, again, a payables invoice. Again, you still have edit in Excel. So if you have a bunch of lines and you want to get them in there quickly or copy and paste, that's going to work on all these grids. So you got, your purchase, but I also have purchase journals. So a purchase journal is basically going to allow me to go back. And I'm basically almost doing like a journal entry, except now I'm putting in an invoice and document number. So if I say again, toggle that. So now it's going to do a lookup to my vendors. versus, so you can see GL account would be a, a traditional, right? So if I've got distribution lines, I could do GL accounts. But for the purposes of this, I'm actually doing the vendor first to start that vendor invoice, right? So you really can do a lot with it. You could also do one-line entries in Business Central where you can put an offset account. In this case, it knows that the offset account is my accounts payable. So again, just different ways that you can work to really, help speed up entry depending on which way makes the most sense. And then we got our, obviously budgets, we got fixed assets, all these are included modules. In addition, obviously chart of accounts. So a little bit different approach, right? So this chart of accounts is, instead of having multiple segments like we do in GP, we have our primary account, and then we have what we call dimensions. So there's two global dimensions that allow you to basically define what those dimensions are. So you can see here I have area, business, customer, department. Again, you can get creative. So you have two global dimensions and 8 kind of secondary dimensions that you would assign. But these global dimensions are really where you would drive, kind of that what used to be in your GL segments in GP. So again, new dimensions. And you would assign those dimensions on the lines. You can also default dimensions from customers, vendors, items. So that way you can drive what you want those dimensions to be without having to enter them. So the chart of accounts is interesting that you actually see numbers, right? It's a live data. So I can actually drill into these numbers and see what's making it up. So I'm not having to run a MR report outside of GP and then drill back. I literally can be in here real time and see the data, and again, drill back to that data. So you also can find entries. So if you're really searching for things, you want to see all the associated entries that make up that particular invoice I'm on. You can see with the posted sales invoice, there's 1 entry. Journal entry, there's 5, 3 tax entries, 1 customer ledger entry, which is obviously going to be our AR, right? So again, you're really able to see all of that just by looking through that. So you can drill all the way back to the originating, just a different approach, but it's going to get you there. So you can see, again, these are actually real numbers, real time. So as you're looking at the system. So this is one way, obviously, for people that are looking for hard financial statements, right? Those exist. So financial reports, back to my home page here. It's Power BI. So you can see here's the list. These are similar to MR in some ways. Again, you are going to deal with row definitions, column definitions. So maximize the screen here. This is again actionable information. So I'm running a financial statement, but it's actually able to click through into this information. So if I'm running it, I'm able to actually get back to certain accounts if it's that way. And then of course I've got export to Excel and print. And all that's going to render still in your browser. So then you can send it off to whatever printer that you are using, or email it again. So lots of capabilities. We get into our row definitions. If I go in here, the ability to copy, as well as export those definitions. And here is my definition itself, pretty simple. So again, you kind of construct what you need from a financial reporting perspective, all within the application. So let's say that, obviously on the sales side of things, right, again, same idea, customers. Again, switch the list view, grab that customer. And each one of the screens, you'll see similar layouts, right? So we've got our home page, right? Request approval, create a new document. Okay, what type of document? Sales quote, sales order. Yeah, things we can't do from GP. Like I could pull up the customer, I can look at their information. Okay, if they have questions about AR or want to ask them about their AR, if it overdue, again, you have all that information at your fingertips, right? And then maybe I want to go directly to a sales order. All right, pass that information forward, grab my items. Multiple warehouses / locations, right, quantity. Now, one thing that's interesting, you'll see, interesting functionality that you'll see is not only are these enter a quantity, but let's say maybe I'm selling in I don't know, square feet or something, or they want, I know it's in cases of 10, right? So I want, 15 cases, I could do 15 times 10. And in these cells, it will do the math for you. So that way it's pretty slick that you're not, if you have those types of scenarios, you want to do the math or you're calculating a price, again, all of that is able to be done here. If I'm on the lines here, again, my navigation pane is going to show me information about this item. So I'm over here on the right, I can see, obviously there's the item number, valuation method, standard cost. Unit measure, my item availability. So currently at a negative 150, I don't have any in that location. Right, if I click on the quantity, it's going to show me that. Again, if I drop that out and look at my overall, again, I basically get the ability to see what's going on. And this could create a demand, which allow me to then create a purchase order for it. Now, Business Central does have the options for using warehouse shipments, which is kind of like a packing slip or a pick list, if you will. So you could have a sales order that has multiple lines. Maybe you're only shipping a couple of them, right? That was not something that we could easily do in GP. You'd have to then have, you basically send that order through, someone come with a back order. In this case, you could send those lines to a warehouse shipment. They could then pick them through WMS if you want to use that. And then that would go to an invoice. So again, just different concept, different functionality, but again, extending what the options are for Business Central. So we're talking about the ecosystem. So I'm logged here into Office, my Office 365. Again, if I go to apps, Copilot, Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, all these apps, part of that ecosystem. That also includes Business Central. So when you're in a particular app, if you wanted to, again, be able to use Business Central with that app, you basically add it. So let me go ahead and pull up my actual Excel, or Outlook, sorry, and show you what that looks like for Business Central. So over here, you can see, I can create a sales quote, sales invoice, sales order. It's going to try and associate to the regular purchase order. So you can, it's going to actually go into Business Central and try and do that again. If you have an email that comes in with line item information, and they're trying to find it, so it's actually going to look in to see if you can find that as its contact. Okay, do you want to maybe add me as a contact because it can't find it? View an existing contact. Is it in the wrong company? Again, pretty slick that you can do that, right? So you're able to add as a contact. Again, I gotta go select the company. And here I'd actually be able to create a new company as well from here. So again, the idea is to make all of these systems work tightly together throughout, and not have to, have the disconnected systems or have people copy and pasting information inside a PC. Again, because that's my actual Outlook, which is not tied to this environment, it's giving me some trouble. But again, that's the idea behind it, is to have it all tied together. So other ways to get information out of Business Central. So OData. There's a whole series of web services, and you can basically pull this data into Business Central. So again, kind of like our live Excel feeds, right? We got here our hyperlinks, right? If you were to put that into Business Excel and you're used to doing that, then you're going to pull that data out of Business Central, and share that data with different users, report on it, analyze on it. When it comes to different reports and different versioning of reports, so let's say I want different versions of an invoice, Microsoft is leveraging Word templates or Word documents, but it's a much better version of a Word, very easy to customize, unlike GP's Word templates, where it's still based on the report writer. It's really designed to basically be able to drag and drop fields wherever you want, and create new versions of those reports within the application without having to do a lot of extra effort. Some other areas that Microsoft has been enhancing recently is the ability to do report consolidations, not only consolidations between companies, but consolidations across Business Central environments. So you literally could have two different Business Central environments where you have maybe a parent company, and then you can do that consolidation across two different environments into one consolidated and do that reporting within that environment. So again, lots of enhancements happening throughout the application. I'm going to go back to my customers. They have something new that they're adding into sandbox environments, the ability to do page scripting. So what that means is you can, I guess it would equate it to a GP macro, if you will. It's the best way to describe it, but basically it gives you the ability to record a scenario. So that way, again, when you're going through your upgrades and whatnot, you can just play that script back and make sure that everything still works as you expected. So again, something new that they've added recently, again, just really trying to augment the capabilities of what it can do, because obviously you are upgrading on a regular basis. So customer, again, feature functionality in here. So these screens show more, show less. You have control over what appears. So if they consolidate this completely, you can see just that one field appears. And you do have the ability at an admin level to be able to make those changes and push them out. So if you wanted to create this as a global change for everyone, you could do that in a sandbox. It would create basically a customization that you would then publish in the production environment, and now everybody would start with the same layout. So you can see these different fields are here, but when I go to personalization, right, now I can open these up and I have control over what shows. So does it show under show more? Does it show when it's collapsed? Do we want to exclude it from quick entry? So what that means is when I'm entering, right, do I want to skip over those fields versus having it stop on every field, which again will slow your users down. So if I go over to my sales year to date, and show when collapsed, when I collapse the group, I'm now going to see their sales year to date in here, as well as the name of the company again. So you have control over those fields. And additionally, you have control over what fields you want to show on here. So if I go back to personalize, go to fields, depending on what section I go to, the other fields will appear. And so I can drag on additional fields if they exist, or I can drag fields off if I don't need that. So hit hide and it moves it over here. So again, you kind of tailor these screens to be exactly what you want to see and not have to have it be locked in or have to pay for customizations. All this is included. So it's easy to make those changes, again, depending on what you're using. So we talked about automation before. So when I go to more options, not only, so this is just additional functionality, but under here, lots of functionality, but then we go to automate, and everywhere you see automate, you see the option for Power Automate. And this is where, again, if you're using Power Automate, you can create approval workflows, automated flows. I mean, you really can start to leverage that, and it becomes very easy to do so because the two objects Microsoft made it so they know each other, right? So you're not having to build it out. You can do a lot of things pretty easily through drag and drop through the latest iterations of Power Automate. So pretty powerful stuff. Again, it's a great growing platform, a lot of functionality that they keep adding. Excel reports are one of the latest things that they've been adding. Again, trying to leverage the power of Excel, the ability to do a lot of things without having to create custom modified reports. So you see balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, retained earnings, trial balance coming along. So let me go to my age accounts payable. Oh, okay. Want me to use the preview one? So again, this is a demo environment I just stood up recently, so it's the latest version. And so with that, they're a lot, again, you're just constantly changing, constantly evolving. Again, you see these bookmarks everywhere to be able to do that. Do I want to send it to XML? No. Do I want to send it to Excel? Yes. And now this is not an edit in Excel, so I could open it with my local Excel. Now, if you were in a live environment, you would be able to use your local Excel. You don't need to use the online version of Excel, and you'd be able to. So again, this is the idea. Really, they're trying to make it so that way, you can really use Excel to do a lot of your reporting, but otherwise, you might have had to do otherwise. So again, just really building out a lot of functionality to really add without having to do custom reports or anything like that, right? Just use a leverage the power of Excel to be able to do what you need to do. Okay, that's all I had. So Jen, I would assume you have questions?
Oh, we do. Thank you. Let's see here. First question, if you have multiple companies, is there an option to look at a consolidated version of all the companies?
Yes, you can create a consolidation company, or you could add multi-entity management, which GP also has, and BC, has it with binary string, where you would then basically use one segment and you'd have just one company, and then that global dimension, that first global dimension becomes your company segment. So two options. One is to have a consolidation company where you basically pull all that information in and run the consolidated report. The other option would be, if you didn't want to have a lot of companies, would be to maybe use MEM, where you're then using them to basically make it a lot easier to be able to do all those transactions.
Okay. Another one, does payables process an incoming document from a vendor and then save a copy in Dynamics BC? Or do we still have to hand enter the data into the system from an invoice?
Good question. So it has a limited amount of document capture, but you still have to bring in that document, and then it could try to do it. Most people that are looking to do automated purchasing payables would go one of the ISVs that would really enhance it. So that way, basically, it just puts it into BC, reads the document, uses AI to, in some cases, read those documents, pick out all the important information, build out that invoice inside of BC, and then you can just approve it. So it's not going to be built into BC. It's not something that, they're going to let these best of breed solutions do what they do, and then it's just going to push it into BC, which again, those are available for GP as well. There's just, it's a larger set of them available for Business Central. So depending on what your needs are. And when you get into those types of things, you do have to consider, am I doing invoice matching with purchasing? So am I issuing purchase orders, doing receiving, and doing invoice matching versus just like payables, transaction entry, expenses, and whatnot? Because each of those solutions, some of them don't support all of those things.
Okay. There were a couple other questions, more specific ones around ISVs. So one of them was on Cavallo SalesPad. Is there an integration to BC for that one? And the other one was Bullhorn, which I'm not familiar with, but I'm guessing you are.
Yes, so Cavallo SalesPad, the SalesPad desktop product does not integrate with anything but GP. It was exclusively written for GP. Cavallo does have a profit analytics tool that does integrate with BC to be able to kind of give you profit metrics and some things along those lines. But that's really they've been working on other products for BC, but that's the one today that I'm aware of. So the actual sales, the big product that most people have, SalesPad Desktop, is not available to work with Business Central. Again, that's a desktop based product, and it doesn't run in the cloud or browser. When it comes to Bullhorn, there is a couple solutions, other payroll solutions out there that are integrating between Bullhorn and BC. So there's not a direct integration that I'm aware of for Business Central yet.
Okay. What do people use in place of SalesPad? Are there other options out there? Or Cavallo?
Again, Business Central is a versatile tool in the way that it works. There are a lot of ISVs that add functionality to Business Central to kind of simulate what SalesPad had. Again, it's a different interface, but again, you can tailor the lines. You can do a lot of the things that we used to do in SalesPad And then, of course, like I said, you have ISVs that can be added to Business Central to kind of enhance the functionality. There's not a sales pad for Business Central. There, it really is. It's a unique product, really, to GP. Now that's today. Again, that's something that we have to look at. Again, where are we today? Things are constantly evolving. Browsers are getting better as we move forward in time, and so that aspect of what we can do in a browser, from year to year is going to continually improve. And that's really where we want to get to, is to be able to, ideally be able to have, there's lots of ISVs, like, so when it comes to, somebody wants lots of user defined fields, right? You can do that through a simple ISV, right? You want to create new screens potentially. There's an ISV that lets you do that as well for Business Central. So you basically add that in, and now you can add those fields. And of course, once you add those fields, you can see how you can easily add them to the screens.
Okay. There were a couple questions about data migration. So can I move all my data from GP to BC? How does that data migration work? Can you give us a little information on
Sure.
data migration?
Sure. So Microsoft has been working over years and working on a migration tool. Now, the migration tool, again, GP and Business Central are two completely different applications. So there is certain level of information like master records and things like that. They can definitely move over. A lot of times they'll bring over beginning balances. As far as all your historical data, there are some provisions for some historical data. If we can use that migration tool to basically have like a drop-down list, like on the customer card, you could go and say, okay, show me my GP history, right? And then you'd be able to see those sales invoices and whatnot that ran through GP if we can use that migration tool. And again, that tool keeps getting better each year because they continue to try to improve it. So that way, again, that effort from going from GP to BC becomes less and less. Now, it's not going to, for people that are using certain feature and functionality inside of GP, it's not going to count for those. Like if you're using analytical accounting, if you're using project accounting or some other ISV solution in GP, it's not going to account for any of those. It's really just going to do a lot of the base core. And then you're still, if, as far as other options for seeing and having access to your GP data without actually truly migrating it, that's a product called PopDoc from E1. Anybody that has Smart List Builder actually has now been, basically you have PopDoc available to you. And what that can do is it can literally take all your GP data and move it up to the data lake, which is very inexpensive data storage. And then PopDoc would actually be an add-on inside of BC where you can actually go and view all of that historical data without ever having to try to migrate it, because again, the two systems are not exactly the same. All the data points are not exactly the same. So rather than trying to line all that data up, which is a big lift for most people, they can just, have all that visibility without having to actually migrate it all. So that's definitely an option that a lot of people will take, because again, the effort to try and truly migrate the data over is a big lift.
Great, thank you.